I'm
Hi,
ready.
oh. Well, I just want to kick this off with a welcome to everybody. I'm Katie Yakel, and I'm going to just turn this right over to our very special guest expert, Marcella Allison. Marcella, why don't you tell us what's in store for us today?
Oh, Katie, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really thrilled that you guys asked me to do this
This is a
today.
big deal.
I'm like, we have a big surprise at the end. I feel like that book Cookie Monster, where he was like, don't turn the page, don't turn the page, and then when you get to the end, there's like the huge party or whatever. So
Yeah.
we have a big surprise at the end. So I hope you'll stay with me as we turn every page along the way. But today we're going to talk about catching fire. What does that mean? How do you rapidly accelerate your career through the different stages so that no matter where you're at today, you're going to find a way that you can speed up that acceleration into where you want to end up, right? And there is no ending point on this journey, right? We continue to get bigger clients, more income, better gigs. So I'm going to show you how to go from wherever you are right now and move and rapidly accelerate that over the next 30 days. And I'm going to give you 5 hacks, tips, secrets that have made the biggest difference for me when I have been trying to accelerate my career. How's that sound?
Awesome.
All
Let's
right.
go.
I miss that hearing everybody, right? And the okay. So with
Awesome.
that,
Yay. Yeah. Let's do it. Crowd noise.
yeah, I love Katie playing in the crowd. Oh my God, that's perfect. Okay. Now, why does it not want to move forward? Oh, there we go. Okay. So hopefully most of you may have met me at one point or another. I have been to many boot camps. I realized my first one was in 2005, believe it or not. This year, I was really grateful when Katie had asked me to be the MC of boot camp. I have been leading the Circle of Success Mastermind and the Circle of Success onboarding last year. So hopefully, we've run into each other in one of those many spaces, but if not, a quick overview, because this is going to tie together to how I'm going to show you how you can move through the stages in your career, similar to how I move through the stages in mine. So at this point, I have between 19 and 20 years of experience as an A-list copywriter, an in-demand copy chief, and we're going to talk more about what that means, an entrepreneur myself, and a mentor. My copy has generated over $500 million in sales for top direct response clients. And again, something interesting that came up when I was looking at the income that I have earned over my career this week is that I've actually earned more income as a copy chief than a copywriter. So when I accelerated my career and added and up-leveled new skills, I increased my income and expanded the areas in which I can make money, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. On 2018, AWAI awarded me Copywriter of the Year, and I have to say, to this day, that is one of the greatest honors of my career that I have. I have designed and led copy mentoring, copy chiefing teams for high-level divisions of Agora. I founded and sold my own training company, the Mentoress Collective. And most importantly, for some of the things we're going to talk about here today, I am often jokingly called the most copy chiefed woman in the business because I have worked with major legendary copy chiefs like Mike Ward, Clayton Makepeace, David Deutsch, Paris Lampropoulos, Cindy Buthorn, and of course, Katie and Rebecca, who are my copy chiefs when I am writing for AWAI. And again, we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. All right, so what did my career path look like, right? How did I get to where I am today? All right. So, first of all, I started out as what I call a clueless newbie. And when I mean clueless. So I had a good friend, Larry Kavanaugh. He was working as a marketing consultant. Again, great place to look for gigs are the people doing the strategy and the marketing consulting because they often don't want to be in the trenches doing the copy. So Larry had a client who was a option trading firm here in Cincinnati. He needed someone who could write daily emails. he reached out to me for two reasons. One, I was an English major, so he figured I could put a decent sentence together. And two, I understood the math of things. I was good at math. I had worked at a venture capital firm. I understood a spreadsheet. I knew how math worked. And he needed someone who could write emails to option traders and not make it sound like cold fusion, but also get the math right. So he just reached out and said to me, hey, would you give this thing a go? Would you be willing to do this? And I had a full-time job at the time. And I said, yeah, I'll try some of these at night, see how I can do it. Right. So clueless newbie. So the first thing I did was come to AWAI to figure out how to actually do my job. And we're going to talk about what you need to do to move from clueless newbie to the next stage of your career. All right. So when I say clueless, I was clueless. The next stage happened.
Marcella, before we jump onto that, we are hearing from a few folks that they're having a little trouble with your volume. Is
Too
there
high or too low?
too low?
Okay, let's try this. Let's move this forward. And let me see. Hold on. Guys, I'm going to have to exit this real quick to turn my volume up. So just bear with us for 2 seconds here. Okay, so I need to go here. Let me see if I can move my own. All right, you may have to, I'm going to stop share for 2 seconds, guys. All right. I'd rather you guys could hear this and we fix this than, okay, audio settings. Oh, I had it turned way down. Is this better?
I heard you fine, so I'm going to let Jade.
Yes, definitely the volume definitely went up when you said that.
Okay,
There we go.
Am I deafening anyone or are we good?
No, it sounds good.
Okay, that's on me. I had it turned down. Okay, so now let's go back to sharing. Let's share.
Oh, Marcella, I'm so impressed.
I know. Look at me now. See, now you.
Yeah, I better not say anything.
I know. I know.
Like you're skiing and somebody says, "Look how good you're doing."
Right. That's when you go over the wall, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you.
So after I came to AWAI, I met David Deutsch. I met Paris Lampropoulos. I became an apprentice studying underneath them, right?
And Marcella, again, I'm just going to but
oh, do jump in.
Some people may not know who those two men are and their stature in this industry. So, I mean, I would just maybe give like a thumbnail. They're big deal. They're
no,
big
that's
deals.
really good. So at the time that I started, which was almost 20 years ago, the leaders of the industry were those who were writing direct mail packages that went in the mail with this thing called a stamp and showed up in your mailbox, right? And they didn't have the luxury of trying 57 different leads and headlines and a bunch of emails online because the cost of putting that package in the mail was astronomical. So those were sort of the godfathers of direct response. And AWAI had a boot camp. It was a very small, intensive boot camp with a company called Boardroom, which at that time was probably one of the largest direct response companies selling books directly through and magazines directly through the mail. And so what happened was I was lucky enough through AWAI to meet these experts in their field who really understood what it took to get the sale, especially when you had so much money invested in the advertising piece. And I began working with them, and that was David Deutsch and Paris Lampropoulos, and they were two of the biggest writers at the time, along with Arthur Johnson, for this
early
company.
A-listers. Early
A-listers, right?
Okay.
Early A-listers. No, that's really good. Thanks, but keep doing that. Okay. So from there, again, I'm still sort of like trying to train, trying to keep the day job, right? And I decide to go out and hang up my own shingle, right? And become a copywriter myself. Like, can I do this full time, right? And by then I kind of had the confidence that I could pull this off and do this full time. And I'm going to talk about how I made that transition, right? And I did it in such a way that even though I took the leap, I hedged my bets. And I'm going to tell you about how to do that, right? How can you hang up your own shingle, but not like go all in and risk not eating next week, right? Like, because I'm a big fan of let's not go crazy here. Let's Let's take a risk, but let's take an informed risk and let's make sure we can feed the cat. Okay. From there, as I grew and gained experience as a copywriter, I became, and I'm going to talk about how I did this, kind of the go-to person on the team. If you've met me before and you know anything about me, I'm someone who always wants to help and see other people succeed, right? So the way I moved from copywriter to copy chief, which is someone who's actually leading the team and implementing the strategy and onboarding new writers, right? And looking over their copy and giving them feedback, right? And making sure that all the parts of the copy make sense together and that the ad they saw leads to the article that leads to the promotion and that all of that messaging, right, makes sense. Really, the way I started doing that was just being the person who had the answers and was willing to share them. It was that simple, right? I was willing to share what I knew and help someone else out. And then that promoted me to a position of leadership in the industry and with my clients. And I'm going to talk about how you can do that too. And it can literally be as simple as putting yourself in the position of being the person that everyone else can come to get answers. And then today, where I find myself is in the role of mentor, or what one of my mentees called me this week, the guidance goddess, which I thought was hilarious.
I love it.
Meaning I'm giving feedback on more than just copy now, right? I'm giving feedback on how can you make a career change, or if you're struggling with a client, or so mentoring encompasses not just teaching someone the copy skills they need and the leadership skills they need, but it kind of goes beyond that. And you have an amazing resource here in AWAI with your mentors, and we're going to talk about that. So that's kind of the progression of my career. And I want to talk about how you can begin to move through these levels yourself. But before I do that, any quick questions before we kind of dive into each of these stages in depth?
No.
All right.
So far, so good.
Okay. So the first hack I'm going to give you is how do you move from being a clueless newbie to and guys, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way towards you. I'm saying this about myself. I knew nothing about the industry. I didn't even know copywriting existed. I had no idea there was courses or trainings, right? I went to my boss and said, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of winging these emails. Surely someone has taught this. Surely there's a course. And he literally goes to his desk and goes, you know, I just got this thing today. And he holds up a promotion from AWAI, right? And then I'm like, yes, that's what I need. Okay. So Clueless Newbie is more about me and where I'm at. You may be anywhere along this path. Okay. So the first thing you have to get really comfortable with is asking for help. It is the only way you are going to progress your career. And I have seen it stymie more people. Maybe it's because we tend to be introverts. Maybe it's because we're afraid that we'll look stupid if we ask a question. Like there's a lot of reasons why we don't want to ask for help and we want to just do it ourselves, right? It's going to take you longer. Like just get your mind right. Unless you learn to ask for help, you're going to be doing this the hard way and the long way. Okay, so the first thing, let's talk about what does that actually look like when I say ask for help. So here's some hacks that really helped me. The first thing is ask yourself, what do I need to succeed and where can I find this? Okay, so if you've worked with me in any of those other places before at AWAI over the past year, you know I'm a huge fan of something called the mentoring roadmap. And we don't have time to go into that whole training here, but I'm going to give you the down and dirty version. Sit down and write down all the things that are keeping you from succeeding. Maybe it's, I don't know how to negotiate a contract, or maybe it's, I don't even have a template for a contract, or maybe it's, I don't know how to have a conversation with the client. Like whatever the thing is, or maybe it's, I really want to write SEO, but I've never been trained in that. Whatever the thing is, I want you to write it down. And then I want you to think about, who do I know who can help me with that? Start with AWAI, right? 90% of your questions can be answered here. But then take the next step and say, who else might be able to help me with that? Reach out to those folks, right? And you're not asking them to save your life. You're not, I joke and I say, you're not asking them to be Yoda and answer every question and guide you through the rest of your life. You're asking for one specific 15-minute conversation, right? So at one point in my career, I was a bigwig venture capitalist, and I decided I had had enough of that world of finance and I wanted to move into a more creative area. And I decided I was going to become a fundraiser for nonprofits. I wanted to follow my heart, right? So I'm going from one profession to another, and that may be true of many of you. So the first thing I did was I said to all of my friends, everybody I knew, relatives, heck, random strangers on the street, hey, do you know anybody who works as a fundraiser for a nonprofit? And would you be willing to ask them if they could just give me a very short informational interview, no more than 15 minutes? I'd just love to know more about this field, right? That led to the first person who worked in a theater company. And she said, oh, well, we have a development director for the theater company. I can connect you. I said, that'd be great, right? I did that interview, short, 15 minutes. Hey, what kind of background do you have? What training? What things should I be thinking about? And then I asked the question at the end of the interview, hey, do you know anybody else that I might want to talk to? And she's like, oh, my friend is the development director at a Catholic girls' school. Oh, that's great. Could you connect us? By the time I was done, I had spoken to development directors at a Catholic girls' school, at an art museum, at a theater company. I mean, I probably had 5 interviews, right? I didn't ask them to hire me. I didn't ask for a job. I was just asking for information. So I understood the landscape of this new industry where I was moving into, right? That ended up leading to a job, because as soon as all these people I had talked to saw a job get posted or heard from somebody on the down low, they would immediately email me because they are invested in my success, because they had had this conversation with me and they had mentored me through the call, right? So they'd be like, hey, did you see my friend, Jane over at Beach Acres has an opening. I thought maybe you should apply, okay? So if you want to move into a new career, and let's say you decide that you want to do copywriting for, well, let me give you an example of my son. Okay. So Nathan, my son Nathan, graduated from college, tells me, never thought I'd hear this, Mom, I think I want to be a copywriter like you. I'm like, oh my God, write every mom's dream. And then he says, but I don't want to write that stuff that you write. I don't want to do that. I want to do YouTube videos. And I'm thinking, I know zero about writing scripts for YouTube videos, right? But I know a guy, right? So I said to him, hey, why don't you do an informational interview with my friend Henry Bingaman and tell him he's younger than me, he's really connected in this industry, ask him some questions about how other people are using YouTube, how he's using YouTube, and what he might recommend that you do next. That introduction led to Henry literally saying to Nathan, dude, I have no time to watch my YouTube channel. Why don't you just take a crack at it and see what you can do? Right? Which leads him to becoming an apprentice. So again, where do you want to be? And then who can you talk to about how to do that? Okay. If I hadn't gone to the first boardroom boot camp, I would not have met David and Katie and the whole team, right? And then at boardroom, I got introduced to Michelle Woke, who was the marketing director for boardroom, who then introduced me to Paris, right? Katie introduces me to Michelle. Like, you never know where those connections are going to lead. And too often, we actually don't use them. So use them, right? Reach out and ask. And then finally, do not be afraid to ask questions for clarifications when you don't understand something. This is probably the biggest thing that I saw when I mentored writers at Agora, is they were terrified to actually ask a question. So the person in charge of the project manager, copy chief, whoever, would say to them, okay, you're going to write, a sales letter about turtles and how to get them back in the sea, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. And they would be going on. And I could just see the writer's eyes glazing over, right? And then at the end, they would say, do you have any questions? And they go, no, I'm good. And they would walk away, and I would say, do you have any idea what you're supposed to do for this assignment? And they'd be like, I'm like, yeah, because they were afraid to ask. Do not be afraid to ask. And there's 2 tricks you can use with your clients. If you're like, oh my God, but I don't want to be the person like who doesn't know what I'm doing, right? Chris Alsop uses a great one where she would say, just curious, can you explain, right? Can you explain this? Another way to do it is to say, look, I have to make this complicated thing sound really simple in copy because people don't want to have to work hard at it. So even though you and I both know that we know what you mean, can you tell me again like I'm a second grader? Right? So but ask. You have to ask. Okay, ask for help.
Marcella, I do just want to stop and take a beat here because all three of these are fantastic and they're so doable. They're things we
Right.
all can do. And I just love how they're couched in a way, like by asking just for an interview to learn more about an industry or any of that.
Right.
It's not really asking for help, it's asking for information, and people love to
Exactly.
share that. So I just think all these ways of repositioning these things that could be uncomfortable for people are so empowering. So I do want to make sure that everybody is really taking this in and thinking about how you can start applying these today.
And the thing, they did a study which I found fascinating, which is that it was between 70 and 80% of people said, yeah, I would be willing to mentor someone. And then when they said, but why didn't you? The answer was nobody asked.
Right.
Nobody asked, right? The worst thing that happens is the person says, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm too busy. They're not offended. They're not upset, right? You asked, right? But if you don't ask, of course, you're not going to get any advice or mentoring or feedback, right?
Right.
Okay. So from copywriter, I consider the next stage apprentice. What do they mean by that? You're not a master of the craft yet, right? You're learning, you're apprenticing, right? What is the best way to do that? Follow the best. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? Don't go out and try to figure this all out on your own. It's tempting, but don't do it, right? Again, it's going to slow you down, just like asking for help. So go ahead and see what has worked for other people. Follow the best. So let me give you some examples. All right. So who is the best at what you dream of doing or becoming? Make a list, right? So when I started out, that list included the people that I went after as my mentors. That included David Deutsch and Paris Lampropoulos, right? Right now, I have this dream to take the writing I've been doing around addiction and mental illness in our family and turn that into some sort of business that helps supports the family members. So the person I consider the best in this space right now is a woman named Laura McCowan, who wrote 2 best-selling books. Then she built a community. She has a membership, a subscription on Substack, right? So I am following her, right? I'm looking at every move she makes, right? I subscribed to her Substack channel, right? I bought her books, right? I'm following to see she's creating this community for people in recovery. I want to create it for people who are family members, right, of people in recovery. So I'm looking step by step. What did she do? How did she create this? How did she build her list? You want to do the same thing. So Nathan says to me, hey, I want to become a YouTube expert. I'm like, okay, who's the best right now on YouTube at doing the thing you want to do, right? Because there's all kinds of things on YouTube. So I'm like, who is actually using YouTube to build a list? Who's using YouTube to sell a course? What are they doing? Make a list, right? What do they do different, right? That other people aren't doing, right? Become a rabid fan of those people. You want them to know who you are. The person who's the best at doing this is Cindy Childress, who's going to be a guest in something we're going to talk about in a minute. And she's also been in the mastermind. Cindy was brilliant. She's a hugely successful ghostwriter and writing coach. She finds someone that she admires. She's going to follow them on social media. She's going to comment. If they have a book, she's going to buy it. And she's going to leave a testimonial on Amazon. And she's going to forward that testimonial to them by email. And if she buys a product and uses it, she's going to write a testimonial and send it to them by email. And she's going to show up live for the training, and she's going to ask a smart question. Literally, I went to an event because she's a good friend and has been a co-mentor of mine, where she was speaking. Everybody in the room, before she ever spoke, knew who she was because of the way she had been engaging, right, with these experts all along the way. So when the expert goes to introduce her, he knows all these things about her. Like, he introduced her like they were like long lost best friends, right? So become a rabid fan, and that doesn't cost you anything. If they have a $5,000 course, you don't have to buy the $5,000 course, buy the $20 book, right? Or take the free thing that they do. Everybody's offering free trainings. Look at I'm offering a free training, right? Show up, be in the training, leave comments, let them get to know you, right? Study them, study what works, study what they're doing. What are they doing differently? And if you're available and you make that connection, you can offer to work for free or reduced rates, or you can just give something like, hey, I wrote this testimonial. So Nathan's example, right? He's studying all these things on YouTube, right? So when Henry says, hey, what do you think? Would you be willing to just play around with my YouTube channel and try some of these things? He's like, I'm so busy, I'm hardly having any time to look at it. So if you can take it, it's better than what I'm doing right now, right? So Nathan's like, okay, right? And he starts testing things. It is now a year later. He's still working with Henry, and the two of them are now, along with a friend, Rachel Maza, who many of you have met also, are now actually implementing a far more sophisticated YouTube strategy for Henry that Nathan gets to be a part of. But that wouldn't happen if he hadn't had the informational interview, if he hadn't said, yeah, let me see what I can do to help you, right? So study the best, volunteer if you can, get to know them, right? And I'm going to tell you in a minute why it doesn't, you don't have to like quit your day job and do this for free. Again, remember, I'm like, take risks, but be reasonable and feed the cat. So we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. So before I move to the next stage, does that make sense? How to move from clueless newbie, get the help you need, to copy apprentice, who's the best at what they do, attach yourselves to them, right? Begin to follow in their paths, begin to learn from them and study them. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right.
Again, doable.
So now, how do we actually become a copywriter? How do we actually take that next step, right? And this might seem a little intuitive to you, right? The number one thing that's going to help you is make mistakes. Get comfortable making mistakes. I saw a study that broke my heart. It still haunts me to this day. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. And it said those that suffer from creative anxiety the most accomplish the least in their career in terms of status and achievement, because they let the fear stop them, right? That anxiety keeps them from making a move, right? So I am telling you, the most important thing you can do, right, is get your mind right. Get comfortable making a mistake. I had to laugh. I was talking with Nathan, right? And Nathan will say things to me like, but mom, I don't know anything about YouTube. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been watching YouTube videos? Since I was 8. Okay, so that's almost 15 years you've been on the platform. How much have you done? You know, what have you done the past year for Henry? How many experts you like? We want to always compare ourselves to the person who's at like the 15 steps above us, right? And then we go, if I don't have all that knowledge, I can't make a move. But that stops you, right? You're going to have to leap before you're ready. So this is a perfect example of all of these lessons tied into one. So Nathan comes to boot camp with me to observe, because I'm like, hey, why don't you come? There's a lot you can learn. He's like, okay. So he's sitting there, he's taking notes. He's incredibly shy and introverted. Most of you probably didn't even see him, right? He's over there, he's taking notes. We go out to dinner with my friend Jen Adams of the Professional Writers Alliance. And because Jen's like a mom like me, like she's not going to put up with the silent Nathan over in the corner. She's like, so what are you doing for Henry? So tell me how this works. So what have you learned about YouTube? And she's doing that mom thing, right? Asking him questions, and Nathan's answering. And at the end of the conversation, she says, you know a lot that could be really valuable to our members. How about if you wrote a series of articles for the Professional Writers Alliance about what you learned this year? What's his first thought? I couldn't do that. I'm not an expert. I was like, Nathan, you know more
Yes. Say
than
yes.
right than 90% of the people. I'm like, and here's the thing, and this is so important. If you say yes, then what's the first thing you do? You make sure if you have a gap, you go out and you know that line about if you want to know something, teach it because you'll make sure you've mastered it, right?
Right.
He says yes. And then Jen texts me to say, oh my God, Katie, love Nathan's articles, right? I'm
I
like,
loved it. I
right?
loved it.
Take the risk.
Yeah.
And I think 2 or 3 of them are out now. So if you have the Professional Alliance and you want to do that, but the lesson I want you to take away is say yes before you're ready, take a leap, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. And this is particularly true for women. So in research, what they find is a man will get to about 60, 70% of knowledge and go, I'll figure the rest out. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. A woman, just in general, is more conservative and she thinks she's got to have 95%, right? Here's the thing, if you don't leap, someone else will. So even if you don't think you're 100% ready, make the leap and then reach out and ask questions. I was talking to a good friend yesterday in a mentoring call who has been offered a chance to copy chief at a new company. And all she wants to do is tell me every reason why she's not prepared. I said, you are more prepared than 90% of the candidates. And guess what? Whatever you don't know, you can ask me, you can ask Rachel Mazza, you can ask Angie Coley. We've all got your back. Whatever you don't know, you're going to ask and we're going to help you. Just say yes, right? Just say yes. And that's what I want you all to do. So you're going to network like a boss. And when you get those opportunities, you're going to say yes. Okay? I think,
Marcella,
yeah.
quickly before you move on, the author Laura, what's her last name?
Oh, Laura McCowen, McKowen.
Great.
It's a great story in 2 sentences. She wrote a book called We Are the Luckiest about her own journey in recovery from addiction. When the pandemic hit, again, leap before you're ready. When the pandemic hit, all the AA meetings shut down. She had a Zoom account. So she invited the 5 people at her meeting, hey, why don't we just get together over Zoom? And she kind of had to make up some new rules for how they would do this because they weren't meeting in person. I kid you not, within like a month, 4,000 people are showing up for her online meeting because there were no AA meetings. And so people kept sharing the link, right? So then she's like, again, a decision to leap. She says, okay, so it seems like you're getting value here, but I can't support 4,000 people on Zoom and pay for it. I know that usually we just throw $1 in the basket, but I'm going to have to actually charge for this and make this a thing and put some structure around this. What do you think people said? Hell yes, go girl, sign me up. Here's my money, take my money, right? So now she goes from being a best-selling author to leading a membership, very successful membership, right? Called the Luckiest Club, right? Which then lets her launch another book because now she has a huge audience for her books, right? That she's built. So now she goes to a publisher and says, I don't even know how many people are on her list at that point. Then she's like, oh, maybe I'll start a Substack, right? Maybe I'll start a newsletter in between books where I can talk about what's going on, right? I'm like, sign me up immediately, right? So she's created 3 revenue streams, right? From a moment in time during the pandemic where no one else is stepping up. And she's like, I have a Zoom account. We can have a meeting. I start to weep when I think about that. That's a perfect example of saying yes before you're ready and trusting that you'll get to where you need to go. That makes sense, guys?
I love that.
And she's fabulous. I cannot recommend her books enough, especially if you love someone in recovery or you're in recovery yourself.
And
okay.
Anonymous is saying he or she learned and remembered what I learned far longer when I make mistakes, which I think is true for all of us.
True. So true. There's that famous story. I think you guys have heard it. It's in one of our books, which I will not remember, of the guy who did air shows in old planes like the Sopwith Camel, whatever. And the guy puts the wrong gas in it and it stalls out and he escapes with his life by seconds, right? He manages to land it without crashing it. And the guy at the airfield comes running over. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to fire that guy. He will never fuel another plane. And he says, oh no, that's the only guy who will ever fuel my plane.
Right.
Because
He's
why? He is
yeah.
never going to make that mistake. He's like, that's the only guy who fuels my plane from now on. So yes, I love that. Make mistakes and be brave. And when you're tempted to back down, I want you to remember those who get stopped by fear and anxiety accomplish far less. So if you want to achieve your dream, you're going to have to push through this, right? You're going to have to take that next step. And that is really the difference between the most successful copywriters I work with. They are still willing to get out there and try something and make a mistake. David Deutsch is fearless. He'll I swear someone could say, hey, I have this promotion for, I don't know, crown, golden crowns that you put on your dog. What do you think? And David would say, well, I've never written for dogs and I've never written about tiaras before, but yeah, let's try it. Let's see, right? Like be that curious about what you might learn and experience, right? Be that curious.
Love it.
Okay, so I've talked about most of these. Let's just a quick review. Make mistakes, make more mistakes, make more mistakes, take risks. Say yes, leap before you're ready. Now, let's talk about the hedge the bets part. Let's talk about that for just a minute, right? So every now and then, and if this is you, this is not a shame thing, right? But every now and then someone will say to me, I'm going to burn the boats. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to sell the house. I'm going to take the $10 I've got. I'm going all in on this copy thing. And if I have no plan B, surely my plan A will work. I can tell you right now, I would be so verklempt and anxious, I wouldn't even be able to shower in the morning, let alone do what I needed to do, right? There are other ways to make this transition. So I'm going to give you an example. So I went back to when I started. Larry Kavanaugh, my good friend, calls me up. Hey, got these crazy option traders. I need someone who can write English, understands the math. Will you give it a try? I'm doing that at night, right? I got my job because of those informational interviews working for a nonprofit. About 2 months in, I'm still writing these emails at night because I don't earn any money at the nonprofit and I need to pay groceries, right? So I'm writing those at night. And I have discovered that the nonprofit is the craziest company I have ever worked at. And that is saying something. So I am like, this is the most unhealthy, insane, nuts place I have ever been. I've got to get out of here. Hedging my bets. I'm driving home. I'm like, I could keep going with that side hustle, right? The writing little emails at night. So I call the company on my way home and I say to the director of marketing, hey, Kevin, it's Marcella. He's like, oh, you gonna have that copy tonight? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that when I get home. So I just have a question for you. This place turns out pretty crazy. And I'm actually thinking that I really need to get out of there. And if you'd be interested, feel free to make me an offer. And he made me an offer before I hit the driveway to come work for them full time. So I was able to do the thing without going all in, right? And my little side hustle at night. And then I had built up enough of a reputation with them. They knew I could do it. He didn't hesitate to make me an offer when I said I'd like to come full time. Another way is Noreen, you probably know her last name, the travel writer. She's lovely. Kopanek, AWAI member. I won't get her last name right.
Yeah,
Noreen, if you're here, forgive me. So Noreen, we'll call her Noreen K, was a full-time nurse who wanted to become a travel writer. She did it one shift at a time. She would build this up. She'd have enough income. She quit the Monday shift, kept going, got more income, quit the Tuesday shift, got more income, kept going, quit the Wednesday shift. She literally transitioned one shift at a time. So when I say, right, leap before you're ready, also think about how can you hedge your bets, right? When I left Schaefer's to go out on my own, I made sure Schaefer's was my first client. So I already knew I had a certain amount of guaranteed income every month because when I moved from being an in-house employee to being out of house, I took them as a client with me. Okay. How can you hedge your bets? Just think of all the ways that might help so that when you leap, you're not leaping the Grand Canyon, you're leaping a small puddle. Does that make sense? All right. Any questions so far? Are we ready to move on to Copy Chief?
Let's keep going.
All right. So once you've mastered your craft and you know what you're doing, right? but you don't know 100% of what you're doing, because you are never going to know 100% of what you're doing. But you've learned the craft. This is not day one on the job, right? So Nathan is now a year into the job, right? So you're not day one into the job. You're a copywriter and you're successfully doing the thing that you love to do. How can you add value, right? How can you become indispensable to your client, to your copy teams, right? To your fellow copywriters? How do you do that? And you do that by, in my mind, right? You do that by stepping up. So you're going to up level, you're going to continue to up level your skills. This is one place where we never stop learning. Thank God, because it's what keeps life interesting, right? If you go to any conference, you're going to see all the best in the first row. I will never forget going to the Clayton Makepeace event. And the first row was every single one of my mentors with their notebook out. And I'm like, but Clayton's your peer. You guys are like, why are you? And they're like, because he knows things that I need to know, right? Like I have to always stay on top. So Paris and David are sitting in the front row listening to Clayton teach them, even though they have sold just as much, right? Because they are always learning. I never forgot that lesson. They're not standing in the back of the room making jokes. They're in the first row taking notes. So be in the first row, right? Up level your skills. Okay, so how do you become indispensable? This is one of my favorite stories. When I was running the Mentoress Collective, we had a panel and I wanted to have an expert copywriter, female from one of the financial divisions. And the person I was going to have speak couldn't make it. And she said, you know, we have a new writer here. This was Kelly Brown, who I'll talk about in a minute. She said, you know, we have a new writer here, Allison Camato. She's really great. She's only been here like 6 months. And like, if she left, we'd be dead. Like, you should have her on your panel. I'm like, oh, yes, please. Okay. This is what Allison tells me. So Allison comes in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to the copy team at Stansberry. She knows nothing, right? She's the clueless newbie just starting out. And the first thing she realizes is it is all introverts. Nobody speaks to anybody else. They're all at their desk. They have their heads down. They're just typing away. Nobody's talking. Nobody's engaging. She says one day, one guy sneezes and the other guy Slack messages, God bless you. Doesn't say it aloud. It's like, so she puts her hands on the desk. She stands up and she goes, okay, enough of this. When we come in, we're going to say good morning to each other. So she like goes through this whole thing. This is how humans interact on a team. Next thing you know, she realizes that there's like 12 copy projects going in 5 different stages with all these 12 writers. And Kelly Brown is so overwhelmed just trying to review the copy, manage the copy, get the strategy in place. So Allison says, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but she's like, I'll create a spreadsheet for that. I'll create a system and then we'll all use that to keep track of where everything's at. Long story short, Mike Palmer, who is then the head of Stansberry's copy team and is an amazing writer, said to me, I swear to God, within 6 months, if she had left, we would have been dead. Like she knew where everything was. She knew how to facilitate the process. She noticed when one of these introverts was kind of like going downhill and she would say, hey, I think we should check in with John over there, right? I don't think he's doing okay. She became indispensable. Guess who's a copy chief at Stansberry right now? Allison, right? And anytime I get together with Kelly Brown, she cannot say enough good things about her, right? So be that person when you see the need, step up, fill the need, become the go-to person. So Angie Coley, who was a very successful copy chief for Jeff Walker, who many of you may know because he's the launch expert. He's the one who invented, you know, the whole launch process. I said to her, well, how did you become Jeff's copy chief? And she said, everyone kept coming to me with their questions. I had been there the longest. I had all the answers. I could help them. I would solve problems. Next thing I know, they're asking me to be the copy chief, right? Be the person who solves the problems. Step up and solve the problems. When you meet with a client, position yourself as a copy chief or a strategist, not just a copywriter. And it can actually end up either saving a job that you might not have gotten or get you a bigger role. I'll give you an example from my own life. Yesterday, I'm talking with these guys who have a very successful business. I think I can say this. I don't think I'm talking out of school. Anyway, I won't give you their names. They have a very successful business working with people to co-list on YouTube. I mean, on Airbnb, right? So they basically help people maximize income from their Airbnb rental properties. Okay, so we get on this call and they're like, hey, have you written for Airbnb before? Do you host on Airbnb? Have you done biz op? But they're asking me all this stuff. And I could have said, well, no, but I've done finance and it's kind of close. Like I could have been like back on my heels, like trying to say, no, really, I can do this. Instead, I just said, you're asking me the wrong questions. And they were like, what? I said, what we need to talk about is how does this video sales letter fit in with your whole funnel? Is it really broken or not? What has happened? Like I go one level above and I start asking them all these questions about the strategy. I'm like, I don't even know if you need a video sales letter yet. Like, so don't ask me, have I written a video sales letter for Airbnb? You need to ask me, do you need a video sales letter? And let's look at that, right? By the end of the call, they're like, so how do we work with you now?
Love
Right?
it.
Take yourself up a level. Take yourself up a level and you will be amazed at what happens. Be the person that everyone else goes to and asks for advice. How did I get a $10,000 retainer with Money Map Press? I was always, if I ran into a copywriter in the financial space that I thought would be a great fit, I'd say, hey, Mike, I met this guy at dinner the other day when I was at Brian Kurtz's event. And I know you're looking for writers. He might be a great fit for the team. You want me to introduce you? Yes, right? And then if that writer came in house, I'd say to them, hey, call me if you have any questions, if you get stuck, if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know who to ask, I'm here to help you. So the next thing I know, Mike's like, hey, what if you helped us recruit people? What if you put together a training program for our new writers? All those things you're sending and emailing people about, what if you formalize that to help them get up to speed, right? Next thing I know, I have a $10,000 retainer and I'm not even writing copy. I'm just mentoring and chiefing and putting together trainings because I've taken it up a level. So hopefully that makes sense. And the other way you can do it is it's a great way to save a small client that doesn't want to pay you anymore. So let me give you an example. So I'm at Schaefer's Investment Research, but then I meet Katie, I meet Rebecca, I meet these guys from Agora. I'm seeing all this other opportunity out there, right? Schaefer's is like, we will never pay royalties. And, so I can see like a little ceiling on my income here. And I see all this potential over here at Agora, but I'm not ready to make that leap. I don't have an Agora contract, right? But I want to be earning more. So I go to Bernie and I say, well, there's more copy here than I can even keep up with right now because you're growing so rapidly. What if I find some writers and I teach them to do what I've been doing for you and I train them, right? And then I'll read over their copy and make sure it's good enough before I pass it on to you, right? He's thrilled. It's what every business owner wants. They don't want to have to manage that. He's like, yes, and yes, that sounds great. And I went from charging $100 an hour because Bernie would only pay per hour. That's a whole nother story, to charging $250 per hour. And 19 years ago, that was more than most lawyers made, right? Because again, I'm solving a problem, just like Allison going in and saying, hey, you want me to put a spreadsheet together? Hey, maybe there's a process here. Hey, maybe I can organize all these projects so that you can see where they're all at, right? I'm the same thing. I'm like, Bernie, what if I find some freelancers and I teach them how to do this and you can pay them less than you're paying me. You'll pay me more, but fewer hours, and I'll just review it for you. Any questions so far about how a copy chief works? Does that make sense, guys?
No, I don't think there's any questions. Everybody's riveted.
Either that or I'm talking too fast.
No, I'm pacing you here. I don't think so. I mean, we'll have a few overall questions at the end, but I think this copy chief piece is so interesting because not many people know about it that it's out there. But no, let's keep going. We have about another 10 minutes before we should get into questions.
That sounds good. So, you brought up a really good point, Katie, which is people don't know about a copy chief.
Right.
And what's really interesting is the gossip mill. I love being part of the gossip mill in this industry because we all talk to each other, right? Is going crazy right now saying, hey, do you know any copy chiefs? Do you know any copy chiefs? So Rachel Mazza reaches out to me the other day. She's worked with Marie Forleo. She works with Henry Bingaman, right? She's kind of an integrator who works between the visionary and the business to bring that vision into reality. She's been a guest in the mastermind. And she said to me, oh my God, there are so many like consultants right now. There's like a funnel strategist and a launch strategist. And she said, but none of them want to actually implement the copy. Like they want to make the big plan. They want to talk about the funnel. They want to put, say how many pieces you need. And we're going to need 4 lift letters here and blah, 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 blah. But what they don't want to do is actually review the copy, make sure all the pieces make sense, work with the writers to get it all done, and actually at the level of copy, implement that entire vision. She's like, that's a copy chief. And they are needed for all these businesses, right? Who have huge plans and no one to actually implement the vision. And the other thing that's interesting is rumor mill at Agora is saying at these big companies where you would think that people would be stepping up, that because writers are often by nature more introverted, or maybe they just kind of want to do their work at 4 a.m. in a closet on their own, I don't know, they're not stepping up. So they're not saying like Allison did, hey, I can help lead this team. Hey, I can put, right? So even at a big company that might already have a team of writers, no one's necessarily raising their hand and saying, I'd like to be the chief, right? So that's another need. And the third place, and this is interesting, you're seeing more listings on places like Upwork and Elance. I'm hearing from another friend of mine wanting a copy chief for AI, which sounds kind of funny because we think, well, shouldn't there be a person? No, like they're saying, hey, so I've got all these great prompts and I'm spitting out all this AI copy, but there's no one looking at it and actually helping me take it to the next level or saying, yeah, this isn't quite right, or we need to fix this. So now AI generate companies who are even already using AI need a copy chief to help them take the AI copy up to the next level. And Guillermo confirmed that for me. He said, yeah, I would never just deliver something that was like, I have to copy chief it to the next level, like myself, right, before I'm ready to do it. And so that's why there's this sort of need for the people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty and mentor the copywriter all the way through, because a copy chief doesn't necessarily write the copy. In fact, often they don't write the copy. And sometimes it's better if you don't, because you need to have that 10,000 foot view. So to this client that I talked about with the Airbnb business, I said, listen, I know a guy who would be a perfect writer for you. I'm going to connect you, and then let's talk about how I might copy chief the whole process. So I've solved the problem for him in a way that now I'm even bringing greater value to the table. All right.
Marcella, so Rebecca is saying this sounds like the equivalent of a managing editor at a magazine or editor.
That's interesting.
It's a little bit nuanced from that though, because the copy chief isn't actually planning out the content necessarily, or I mean, in my experience,
it's gonna be different.
It's more working
based
with
on your company, right?
Yeah.
So when I was at Schaefer's, the marketing director was looking at the overall calendar of promotions. So we sent 5 emails a week, and there were like 20 different trading services. And the market's going up and down and doing different things. And the services are having more and less success, right? So he's looking at all that, and we might come to a meeting and he might say, look, the market is completely flat right now. So none of our strategies that depend on volatility are going to work. So this is the one I think we should promote this week. And I would say, okay, then I'm going to go to the copywriters and I'm going to say, okay, so what's an interesting way? How can we sell a strategy that makes money when the market's dead in the water? What can we use for a good open? So I'm sort of taking his direction and working it through at the level of copy. Sometimes, though, it might be a new product launch, right? And they bring you on to copy chief the whole product launch. Well, then you might be saying things like, I'm looking at this offer, but I feel like we need some more bonuses. Or I was talking to this company yesterday and I said, I'm hearing from a lot of people that high dollar offers without a payment plan are kind of running into a wall right now, that people need a little more time to make payments for these big courses. He's like, yeah, we've already got that in place. We have financing available. It's like, okay, great to know. So sometimes a chief is asking questions about the funnel, the strategy. Some chiefs may also help recruit writers. So if you think of an editor going out and sourcing writers for articles, hey, I've got this great article, who might write it? At different times, I've actually done that too. So at Schaefer's, I was always looking for new freelancers to test to work with us. Other places, they might say, hey, we've got these 5 writers. We're really happy with them. We just need someone who can lead the team. And I was talking to Serena Savage this week, who's another great copy chief. You're also kind of a therapist for copywriters. I mean, literally, when she and I were working together at Money Map, we wanted to notice when someone went dark, right? When they were supposed to have turned in a headline, a lead, and they were 5 days late and they wouldn't answer. I'm like, okay, they have completely freaked out. They've written themselves into a corner. They're convinced they're a failure. Like, there's a piece of it that is the managing of the creative process that is like, I don't know, being the manager of a ballet or a theater, or like someone who works with creative artists. I say all the time, I use the skills I learned at Carl Solway Gallery when working with writers. It's the same skills I used working with contemporary artists. So the therapist is a little bit in there too, coach, cheerleader, right? Noticing where communication breaks down. That's another one that Serena and I did all the time at Money Map. Someone would say, I'd say, why isn't this done yet? Well, I don't have the track record. Did you email the guru and ask for the track record? Yeah, last Monday. Did you follow up? No, I haven't heard back. Huh, get up. We're going to walk over to his desk and we're going to stand there till he gives you the track record. This is how that works. Now you have the track record. Now go back and write that headline, right? Like sometimes it's a facilitation of the process from management, guru, expert, and the writer. And you kind of put yourself as the buffer in between, and you advocate for the writer and you advocate for the business owner. And you're solving problems for the business owner so he doesn't have to think about it. And you advocate for the writer when they've really been put in a situation where they need someone to say, you told him to do this and didn't give him any of the resources. So either we need to get the resources, or it's like, you haven't decided on the offer yet and the copy's due next week. That's not fair. Do we need a meeting today to decide what the offer is? Because he can't write this without that.
Right.
So there's a little bit of advocacy in there. And when I think of a magazine editor, I do think of them sometimes being in that role between a publisher and their writers, right? They're kind of a bridge there. They're also aware of everything that's going on in the magazine, not just the one article that one writer's working on. And that's true of a chief also, you know? So that's a really interesting question. And I haven't worked in that field in a long time to really be able to compare them, but I hope, Rebecca, that gave you some ideas of how those might dovetail each other a little bit.
Great. And Marcella, we do need to keep moving. Somebody's saying they want to know about the surprise because they have to get back to work, but I know you have one more.
Just real quick. And this is just, you know, as a mentor, your job is to pay it forward, right? Your job is to pay it forward. And in that role, this is the surprise, right? So I have gotten together with Katie and Rebecca, and for the first time ever, I am taking everything I have learned in 20 years, first being the most copy chiefed woman on the planet, right? So sitting with David Deutsch and Paris Lampropoulos and Clayton Makepeace and Mark Ford and having them look at my copy in depth. Here's the problems and here's how to fix it. And then being a copy chief at places like Money Map Press, Schaefer's, and for many of the writers who just come to me individually, looking at copy to say, here's what we need to do to fix this, right? And talking about this role. How do you elevate yourself with your clients or your employer, right? To become more than a copywriter, to become the copy chief, right? Who is mentoring and directing other writers and taking that copy from the very first idea all the way to execution. And we are calling it Copy Chiefing Mastery. And we are going to attempt to deliver 20 years of my knowledge into your head in 5 weeks in May. And this is going to be a roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty process. You're going to see all of my crappy first drafts and the comments from my chief, so you can see how they directed me. And then I'm going to show you how you direct each other, your fellow writers, right? How we work together to chief each other's copy and learn how to recognize where something isn't working and better suggest what you need to do to fix it.
Right.
But perhaps the icing on the cake is
And
that,
Marcella, I did just want to stop you right then because I do want to clarify that I think we got a little heavy on the project management and all that, which can be part of it. But for me, I think the real sweet spot for writers is working with the writers and helping them
yes,
make their copy better
yes,
and helping the whole process be better and smoother. So, okay, icing on the cake.
yeah, because, well, here's the thing. So there's a lot of ways that these skills help you. So the first is it helps you distance yourself from your own copy so that you have the confidence this is ready to give to my client. I'm going to go down Marcella's copy chiefing checklist, right? Is this working? Is this working? Is this working? Have I addressed this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Okay, now I have the confidence I can turn it in. It works peer to peer. So one of the best ways that I have succeeded, and this is something we don't talk about a lot, most writers at the very highest level are always giving feedback to each other.
Yes.
David and I give feedback. Henry and I are giving feedback to each other, right? Paris and David are giving feedback to each other. We don't just write copy and send it out. We chief each other, right? We chief each other. Sometimes for money, sometimes we just swap, right? And in fact, those swaps as copy chiefing each other's earned me more money than any project I ever did on my own, just FYI, right? So the second way it helps you is with your peers, right? Especially if you're in a critique group right now or a buddy group, these skills are hugely valuable, right? And then, right, the third level, the highest level is how can you sell them? So can you sell them to a client, right? Hey, I'm going to review all your copy. I'm going to take it up a level, right? I'll take your AI copy. I'll take your junior copywriter's copy. I can help you get this to the next level because most of them know that it's not there yet, but they don't know how to articulate what needs to be done to fix it, right? So you can use this process, and we're going to talk everything from the initial idea, right? Because you're involved in brainstorming the concept all the way through the offer and the close, right? How do you look at a piece of copy and say, yes, this is working, or no, it's not. Here's why it's not. And here's what I think you need to address to fix it. But you're not going to just learn from me. You are going to learn from all of my former copy chiefs who are coming in as guests.
Amazing. When I saw this, Marcel, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Did these people actually all say yes? Or is this just like a dream list that you put together, like you're trying to manifest? I had to stop and like ask about this. It's really something.
So Kelly Brown and Michael Ford are going to join us from Stansbury. Paris Lampropoulos is coming. David Deutsch is coming.
I don't think Paris has been on many, if any, of our events or anything.
He's sort of a recluse. You have to do a lot to get him to say yes.
A big get, yeah.
Cindy Buhorn, who ran NetEffect marketing, right, for decades, right? She's coming on. Henry Bingaman is coming on, right, to talk about how he puts together proof. I mean, all of them kind of are focusing on one area, but they are also talking about the broader way of how they look at a piece of copy and diagnose what needs to be fixed, because this is really an art, not a science. So you're going to get my perspective, but you're going to get Mike Ward's and Henry's and David's, all of their perspective. And then I've asked the folks I've been talking about who are in the field doing this, right? So Angie Coley and Rachel Maza and Candace Lazar, Cindy Childress, many of whom started out where I was, right? Clueless newbie with AWAI and have moved into this role of copy chief to say exactly how they have landed those gigs, right? Because they've landed them in the last year or two. They're out there in the market right now doing this. So I'm like, tell me how you did it. Tell me how you raised your hand and got this
This is like an Olympic team of, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really, it's just such a once in a life, it just the stars lined up to get all these perspectives on how to do it, and then get all these perspectives on then, okay, how do you actually leverage
Yeah.
that, translate that into real work and real money. It's really incredible, Marcella. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful that you were able to
I
work
have
through
called
magic.
in a lot of favors.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many I have left after this. So let's just say, if we're not exaggerating when we say this is a once in a lifetime thing, I'm not sure I could ever pull this off again. If you want to know more about exactly how I go through a promotion, like what am I looking for at each stage, and who is the expert who is joining me to talk about those stages, you can go to awai.com/copy chief and you can get all the down and dirty details. I name names, right? I name names of everyone who's committed to be a part of this process and to really share a skill that we don't talk about a lot. Like we teach copy, but we don't teach the how do you step back and analyze a piece of copy, because those are two different brains. And I'm
Right.
not talking about editing, which I have all the respect in the world for editors, right? I'm not talking about just, where something's not clear and I'm not downplaying an editor, right? I'm saying this is a layer in addition to editing, right? So if you currently are working on editing, adding copy chiefing can add a whole nother layer of expertise and command higher fees, right?
That's so true. This really isn't, it's known once you're a copywriter that there's copy chiefs out there, but I don't think there's any other program that actually encapsulates what it is, how you do it, how do you become proficient at it, and then how do you find clients. There is not, I know for a fact there
No,
isn't.
because it's funny because everyone's like, oh my God, why? This is brilliant. Why hasn't somebody done this before? This is great. Can I come audit? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, so there is a promo or a sales letter that there's a link to it. And so it's in the chat. So I want, it's a letter from Rebecca that's going to give you more information, because it's easier for us to talk about Marcella than Marcella to talk about herself and how great this program is. So I hope you'll take a minute today and be one of the first to get into this. You guys are the very first people that are hearing about this, and you have first dibs on joining Marcella and this remarkable solar system of experts that's going to be joining and sharing and being as generous as everybody in Marcella's world always is. So
And we didn't talk about the fact that you can also submit copy for me to Copy Chief for you. So if
wow.
you're working on a project, you can submit the copy, and then not just me, but the entire cohort of members are going to use these skills to give you feedback, right? So if you're working on a promotion, and it doesn't have to be some 60-minute video sales letter. In fact, we're only going to look at about a page and a half, right? So it could be an email, it could be a headline and a lead for something you're working on, it could be a content piece, right? Cindy Childress has done this live before with me in the mastermind. It was one of our most popular sessions, right? So each week you have a chance to submit some copy, and then we'll practice the lessons, because theory it's hard to say. So if you see a headline that's red, say this, right? We have to actually look at a piece and say, okay, so here's the questions we want to ask about this. Here's the feedback that we might give. And at the same time, you're going to get my crappy first draft, the first attempt I ever made to write a long form sales letter. You get to see the first version, you get to see the final version, and you get to think about what kind of feedback would you give that first version if you wanted to get to the final? So it's all practical, practicum, practice, right? Do the thing, do the thing.
Do the
So
thing.
that
We're
you'll be
all about
confident, right? That you'll be confident that you can do the thing and you're not dependent on me to do the thing. Yes, fun, fun. There will be fun.
All right, and this fun starts on May 3rd, and it's going to be every Friday and Monday of May at 11 a.m. So what a great way to spend your month of May with
Sorry,
Marcella.
Katie, it's a Tuesday, Friday and Tuesday. Just want to Oh
Neither
man,
one
this
of
is
us
very
caught
confusing.
this. Clearly, we needed a copy chief. Thank you, Jade.
Yeah. So every Friday and Tuesday in May, starting on May 3rd.
And it
All right.
actually starts right now, guys, because if you sign up right now, I've given you a little pre-work assignment, which is that very first piece I ever tried to write. You get to practice giving me feedback. You get to give, let's see, I'm going to be 59. So what is that? 49-year-old Marcella. You get to give 49-year-old Marcella feedback, and you get to start on that right away. We have a Slack channel, and you can post it and we can start chatting tonight, right? So don't wait if you want to be part of this, right? Because we're going to dive in and it will let you kind of already see what this is going to be like and get going, right? You don't have to wait till the 3rd. You can get going and we can start chatting already.
Marcella, number of people are asking if they need to already be established copywriters.
Oh my God, no, 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 no. So here's what's really interesting about that. There's a lot of different theories, right? But for me, when I first met David, right, at boot camp, I hadn't written anything for boardroom or anything at that level, right? I was still learning, that clueless newbie. David hands me a promotion and I said, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Right? I'm doing the thing. I'm being the rabid fan, right? I'm trying to follow him. And he's like, I don't know, you could read this promotion and give me your thoughts, right? I took that home. I went through it line by line, writing notes in the comments, right? Most of it was great. Most of it was like, oh, I really love this. This resonated with me. Oh, I totally saw that. But every now and then I'd be like, I kind of got confused here. I didn't understand this. Or there was a funny sidebar where he talked about a homemade mosquito formula. And he was talking about Edna putting it on before she went to a picnic in her shorts. And I said, if your target audience is 70 plus, she wore a dress or culottes. She did not wear shorts to that picnic. You would not catch my mother dead in shorts. And he's like, oh my God, that's huge, right? Because I would have lost the reader, right? So it's something I knew about the target audience. David was so impressed. He began swapping critiques with me. He charged $1,000 an hour to review copy. I got it for free just because I gave valuable input to him, even though I had not written a single promotion at his level. Right. And sometimes what happens is if you're a writer, you're a really good writer, but you're not good at fixing and directing. So then what some of the worst copy chiefs do is they don't know how to give feedback. So they're like, just give it to me. And then they go rewrite it. And then they get all crabby because they had to rewrite it. And then the whole process comes to a grinding halt because they're supposed to be reviewing copy, but they just vanish to go rewrite something for 2 weeks. So sometimes it's better if you're not the expert copywriter. You've just got to have a critical eye. You have to know how to look at a piece, recognize what isn't working, and suggest to the writer how to fix it, which can be very gentle. It doesn't have to be, it's not a specific direction. So David gave me direction on a sidebar once for a cookbook we were doing with all these cures for different conditions where you would like cook food that would help with that condition. It was a sidebar about chocolate helping lower blood pressure, I think. I can't even remember. And I wrote the sidebar and David's like, no, this isn't working. And I'm like, okay, so specifically, you got to help me. And he said, you need to get as close to eat a chocolate cake, cure diabetes as you can get. And I immediately got it. I'm like, oh, so there's a recipe for a chocolate shake in here, made with dark chocolate that helps lower blood pressure, that also includes like some berries and stuff. He's like, right. So then I rewrote the whole thing. So he didn't rewrite it. He just said literally that one sentence, hey, you really gotta, how close can you get to eat chocolate cake and cure diabetes? I'm like, I got an idea, right? So you're giving direction. You're not writing it yourself.
Right. And I do want to say to the newbies, what a learning experience.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, you are going to absorb so much, you're going to know so much, as far as actually improving your skills, having such a deeper understanding, and really learning by just being around all these pros is, I just can't stress enough what an amazing opportunity it is.
And it's
Marcella,
that confidence thing, Katie, too, because
yeah.
it's the creative anxiety that holds you back because you're afraid you're not ready, you're not good enough. But now you have tools that actually objectively tell you this copy is ready and good enough, whether you're actually submitting it as part of an AWAI course. I mean, this is a great companion to whatever course you're taking where you're submitting projects along the way. You can critique it here and submit it there. And kind of unbeknownst to you, I often have people call me when we did the 10K challenge. Hey, can you go through this with me before I turn it into AWAI? I'm like, sure, let me copy chief this for you. So even if you're at the beginning, this is what gives you the confidence to say, I can send this to a client and know that I have met this sort of minimum standard of acceptance, right? Of acceptable good copy.
Yeah. Just two more comments,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we do need to wrap up. Jill, oh, I'm sorry, she has a sick child at home, so she's kind of been in and out, but
We know how that feels.
she read Rebecca's letter, and she's so excited about Justin Blackman.
Oh,
And
he's fabulous, isn't he? So Justin is
he's
the voice expert.
and Jill has been in his brand voice visionary, and it's life-changing. Writer's life-changing. He teaches the nuance of voice at a whole other level. So Jill, I hope, I'm glad you've had that experience. And if you want a little bit more of Justin and Marcella, and plus all these other people, this is going to be quite the opportunity. One last question, and then we're going to wrap up. It's not really about copy chiefing, but I want to make sure Margaret gets this question answered. She wanted to know if you set up a business before you did copywriting. So did you have a business entity set up before you got
No.
your first client?
So the first couple years when I was helping my friend Larry on the side, I just ran it through my own personal, I didn't know anything, right? I just like, hey, to my tax account, I made an extra 400 this month, right? And then when I was an in-house employee, didn't have to do that. It was only when I left Schaefer's, took them with me as my first substantial client. So they were basically going to be my primary source of income, right? I think it was, I don't know, $3,000 a month or something on retainer. That's when I said, oh, I need to set up a business. And I had a friend of mine who owned a small business. Actually, he owned the Carl Salway Gallery. And I just said, Carl, how do I do this? And he just walked me through it. But AWAI has so many trainings, especially if you're a Circle of Success member. You have everything you need. You just work your way through it. Pam Foster is a freaking genius. And she's like, step 1, step 2, step 3. I mean, down to like best computer, best lights, get your desk set up, do this with your books. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. Good. All right, Marcella, I'm so excited for May 3rd, and I'm going to be along for this ride. I can't wait to get all these insights and just amazing. I'm just so excited that we are finally doing this, and I just know it's going to be great. So thank you. And thank you for your time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Such great questions, such great participation. So I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you on the 3rd. Bye, guys.
Bye.